Hello again and welcome to Backyard Farmer. I'm Kim Todd and we've got another great show planned for you, including answering those gardening questions. If you need help tonight, dial 1-800-676-5446. Our phone volunteers will be glad to help you. If your answer can wait and you'd like to send us a picture, you can email us at byf@unl.edu. Tell us as much as you can about your question, including where you live, and know that we will use those on a future show. We'd also like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook. So, Wayne, you brought a stick.
And there's no dog to play fetch with tonight. So I brought a stick from my bristly locust in my backyard, and I brought this because it illustrates a lot of points that you may hear from time to time on Backyard Farmer. So the first thing I want you to notice is there's a swelling right here. So that was a gall that has formed due to some wood-boring insects that have gotten into that. And then the other thing you'll notice is it's snapped. So when we talk about structural integrity being compromised of your plants, of your woody plants, this is exactly what we're talking about. This went over in the wind a couple of weeks ago in my backyard. And to show you really what's going on, snap it over, just like I promised the camera crew I would do so they could see this. You can see there's a entry point here, and it comes in and it forms a J. And that's very typical of locust borer, which is a common native borer of hardwoods. And that borer attacks dying, stressed, or recently dead trees. So that tells me my poor bristly locust is very stressed because all of the large branches have this on there.
Okay, unfortunate. Thank you, Wayne. All right, Terry, a little education for everybody who thinks they have poison hemlock.
Yeah, so we have gotten lots of questions this year over poison hemlock and the difference between poison hemlock and Queen Anne's lace. Well, poison hemlock blooms much earlier. It's done blooming, pretty much dead anywhere you can see. And now Queen Anne's lace is going. So the thing that we always tell everybody to look for is on the stem. Poison hemlock has a smooth stem with usually some kind of red blotches. Queen Anne's lace is going to have a hairy stem. So if you can see this, you can really see, thank you camera guys that are getting really close to that you can see that. And then the flowers are much more flat and kind of more lacy looking. And then when they're done, they're gonna kind of cup up like this, and this is gonna be its seed head. So gonna bloom early, hemlock blooms earlier, smooth stem, Queen Anne's lace later, hairy stem.
Thank you, Terry. Glad you brought that, Kyle, because we had some questions about that.
I am not surprised. And really, I thought I would make it look nice and pretty as well. That's, diseases.
For your new daughter.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, diseases can be pretty. And in some cases, argument could be made that powdery mildew can look rather beautiful on occasion. And so this is powdery mildew on cucurbits. There is a lot of it right now. Caused by a few different types of fungi, but primarily Potospharia xanthii is the main one. But one thing about powdery mildew is it rarely causes major damage to the plant. We tend to see it more in areas that are shaded or where kind of it's overgrown a little bit. But the nice thing is that it doesn't really infect the fruit. There may be some early defoliation that can occur, decreasing fruit size or decreasing yield, but for the most part, this is one of those that you can just kind of let go. If you want, you can, early in the season as you're thinking about spacing your plants, that's one of the best times to control for powdery mildew. Increase that spacing. Anything you can do to allow airflow through the canopy will decrease it. If you really have a problem with it, some copper-based products are also effective.
All right, thank you, Kyle. All right, Elizabeth, this one didn't make it into Plant of the Week because it didn't want to live in the vase. So what is it?
So we have a really fun plant right here. What we have is we have the compass plant. And so it's got a really cool leaf to it, and this is a small leaf. They can get much bigger than this. But the reason it's called the compass plant is because its foliage is in the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west. And so this one can get fairly good size. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is this is also in the Asteraceae Asteraceae family, so the same family as sunflowers, so it's going to have a sunflower-like bloom to it. It can get anywhere from 6 to 12 foot tall with this. It's going to have an extensive root system on it, a big taproot. So be sure if you're going to place it in the landscape, it's somewhere where it's going to stay because you're not going to transplant it. The good thing about these flowers is it starts at the top and then it's going to continue to bloom throughout the season and it's going to work its way down. And it also attracts a lot of different types of pollinators. So it's one of those where it's a native plant. It's tough, it can be drought resistant, so it's just a good plant to give it a try if you have a full sun location.
Excellent, thank you, Elizabeth. All right, Wayne, you have the first round of pictures. First one comes to us from Harvard, Nebraska. What are these and how do I get rid of them? Anything non-chemical. They wonder if they're harmful to the horses.
Non-chemical.
And your second picture is on purpose because this particular viewer from Bradshaw put this out for 4 hours and it is now full. How long will the onslaught last? So gosh, I think those two pictures are related.
They might be. Well, first of all, the air you breathe is a chemical, so because it's two atoms put together, O2. So not going to happen. You're going to have to use some kind of chemical. Even a bucket of soapy water, tapping them into there would be a non-chemical, or my favorite, the pinch method. You know, sometimes there's just something satisfying about that crunch. And then with the trap, Kate did an excellent job of covering that 2 weeks ago. She had that trap on the show for her sample, and you just don't want to use them because it's like a party in a box in there, and it attracts them from everywhere, and you don't want them to put it anywhere near anything desirable, as she so eloquently stated.
Soapy water and pinch. Gotcha. Yeah. All right, your next picture here is comes to us from Lincoln. He wonders what kind of beetle it is that's eating his grapes and how to prevent them from doing that.
Well, this is grapevine beetle. We typically don't have them in very large numbers. Again, this would be a pick-off situation when you see them. They're large. They're about 1 inch or slightly larger. Nicely bold colored, easy to pick off. Pick them off, squish it.
All right, and one final picture in this round. This is Pottawatomie County in Iowa. On a linden, they found eggs and hatching insects.
Yes, these are green stink bug nymphs, and you can tell that the green ones because they have the little orange shoulders on them. And so that's how you tell that from the other various types of stink bugs out there.
Good guys or bad guys?
They can be bad, but on a tree, they're probably not going to cause any noticeable damage.
All right, thank you, Wayne. Terry, you have 2 questions in this round. Your first one is, what do I have? And is tenacity the best control?
This is Black Medic, and Black Medic is not listed on the tenacity label. You most likely, the best way to actually get rid of this, especially if it's in turf, is to have a good stand of turf. Make sure that you're mowing the right height, fertilizing, irrigating, all those kinds of things. If it's in your landscape, you can actually just go ahead and dig it out. If you need to spray it for some reason, then you need to look at some kind of a Trimec, so 3-way broadleaf weed killer.
All right, and your next 2 pictures actually come to us from the same person. He has 2 weeds that are his arch nemesis. He's used momentum on them. Here's the first one. What is this and how do you kill it?
So that's clover. So clover actually is indicative, especially in turf, of low nitrogen. So actually fertilizing the turf correctly, making sure that you have a good stand, mowing at the 3 to 3.5 inch height will help get rid of it.
All right, and your second one from that viewer is, what is this and how to get rid of this?
So this one is actually a nemesis in the backyard farmer garden too. This is woolly birdsedge. This is, it's got an intensive root system. You can pull till your little heart's content. You can use a 3-way, the broadleaf weed killer also. It likes compacted soils, it likes full sun. It's probably the best to keep pulling it and probably use that 3-way, but make sure that it's cool enough and follow all the labels.
All right, thanks, Terry. All right, Kyle, your first picture here is from a viewer who thought she had a silver maple. It's not, it's a crabapple. We did have that back and forth. She wonders what to do about this because they defoliate by the end of the season.
Yeah, so this is apple scab. It's a fungal pathogen, Venturi aniqualis. Last year was a really bad year for apple scab. Haven't seen near as much of it this year, but we do tend to see it more when we have kind of cool, wet springs. And unfortunately, at this time of year, there's not a whole lot to do. You know, one thing I often say that people care too much about leaves on their trees. And trees can tolerate pretty severe defoliation for 1 or 2 years in a row. If you have, 3-4 years of severe defoliation, that may predispose it to some other problems. But if you have apple scab that comes in every couple of years and causes major defoliation, really it's not going to be that big of a problem. It's also really hard to control. You would need to do a fungicide application every 2 weeks from about when those leaves are first starting to bud throughout harvest. And not only every 2 weeks, but you have to get the coverage on the tops and bottoms of the leaves. So best thing to do right now, rake up those leaves as best you can, and then water in the morning so that you're not having an increased leaf wetness period on those leaves that have dropped.
All right, and then you have 2 pictures from a Morse Bluff viewer on this one. This is a sour cherry. They're turning yellow, then drop. They're deep watered. He's wondering, is this drought, virus, fungal, bacterial, all of the above?
Possibly. So yeah, this is one that I couldn't really get a great answer on. I'm leaning towards bacterial canker on this, and so bacterial canker, again, we were fairly cool in the spring, and that does favor bacterial canker, and you'll get just those leaves that turn just kind of yellow. But could also be indicative of some other things. There are some nutrient problems that can cause that. He also mentioned it was primarily on one side of the plant, and so I would be curious about maybe one of our wilts, such as verticillium. So just keep an eye on it. I really wouldn't do anything right now, but keep an eye on it and see how it progresses over the next couple of years.
All right, thanks, Kyle. All right, Elizabeth, your first 2 pictures come to us from Norfolk, and it is, he's wondering if his tomatoes are cat-faced. Second year in the garden spot, heavy clay. Didn't have it last year. Is this cat-facing?
It is cat-facing, and the answer behind is what causes it? Nobody really knows. I've seen temperature fluctuations. I've seen cool temperatures, the possibility of herbicides. Like, there's so many different things out there, and nobody really knows. Yes, the tomatoes are still edible. You can leave them on, let them ripen. They just don't have the same appearance to them.
All right, and I've never seen a cat with a face like that, but your next picture comes to us from Omaha. Beans, is this a bug? Is this heat? She does water in the morning. So. And
when I was looking at this, you can kind of tell where the little mandibles of an insect has probably taken some chunks out. So this is going to be one of Wayne's favorites. It's not going to be one of the environmental ones. It's going to be an insect related with that.
All right, so pluck, squish, or ignore?
Well, looks like they're gone now.
Yeah.
There are 2 different insects that'll cause this type of scraping damage readily on green beans. There's a bean leaf miner. The adults will scrape like this, and then Mexican bean beetle will also scrape like this as well.
Okay, all right. Your next one, Elizabeth, is from Sheldon. This is a blue globe thistle showing some interesting stuff on the foliage.
Exactly, and I'm going to toss this back over to Wayne again because we do have that insect damage on top of, the drought stress on there. So, I mean, I can't guarantee that they're gone, but more than likely we're looking at something insect related. If they're really concerned, they could use an insecticide to help protect what foliage that hasn't been eaten from being eaten.
It's a globe thistle. It's going to be fine.
Just don't get it on the blooms.
There you go.
If you treat it.
All right, we are happy to help you identify some of those insect creatures that live on or around your plants. It is possible with a little research that you can figure out what's eating those plants with a little detective work. Here is Wayne to help you with more insect identification tips.
Well, today we're going to cover how to identify insects, but just a reminder for our viewers at home, you can't identify or learn how to identify everything in just a few minutes.
There's a lot of insects out there. In fact, there's over 1 million insects identified in the world right now, and somewhere north of 90,000 in the US and Canada. So there's some helpful tips that we can cover to help you go through that. The first one is find some identification guides that you're comfortable with, that have a scope that you're looking for. If you're someone who does a lot of gardening with trees and shrubs, target a book that covers trees and shrub pests. Also, there's a lot of general insect books out there that, if you're just curious about a lot of what you're finding, those work really well too. And just remember, for your IPM, or Integrated Pest Management, identification is the very first step for your pest management. Now, you can also go through, if you know what you're going to grow, let's say you're going to grow some kind of squash. It doesn't matter what kind of squash it is, you're probably going to battle squash bugs and squash vine borer. So it'd be a good idea to do some background research ahead of that, so you know what to expect, when to expect it, and the signs of what you're looking for. Other things you can look for is just teaching yourself the basic kinds of insects. Beetles are a prime example. We've got those hardened front wings that are called elytra. They have chewing mouth parts. So that's kind of the two big ones we're looking for on those if you're looking at the adults. Many people are familiar with the butterflies and moths. That's another group of insects. Then we have our true bugs, which tend to be a lot of our garden and home pests. We see a lot of those. Looking for that triangle on the back of those insects. Also, one of the things we get a lot of questions on are things like bees and ants and wasps and things that fall into that category. There's a lot of ones that don't have that constricted waist that we tell you to look for. Those are our sawflies. So learning those are going to be a little bit different than learning an ant or a wasp that's going to have that constricted waist for you. Things like that are what we're looking for. And the big thing, if you're looking at this, you got to have attention to detail. I know there are some apps out there that will identify from a photo. Those work fairly well for our common stuff. What it all comes down to is you being prepared and planning ahead for the pests that you're going to be dealing with, or the beneficial insects that you're dealing with. Learn those identification characteristics, those life cycles ahead of time, so that you can be prepared when we have an issue or something that comes up in the garden.
According to every entomologist that sits in this chair, you just say the plant's name and add bug, right?
Or beetle, or only if you're in the right group.
There you go. All right, Wayne, your first picture here in round 2 is these things are 1/2 inch long and they can fly, and they're eating the rose flowers. What are they?
Deja vu.
Yeah.
It's Japanese beetle.
Yeah.
Same management as before. Pinch if you can, if you spray other ones.
All right. 2 pictures on this next one. This comes from Dwight, Nebraska. Nice pictures. What are these? They first appeared in great numbers eating the blossoms of a yellow daylily, and they're now on the cosmos. They're 1/4 inch long.
Yep, we get these every year. They're a leaf beetle, Diabrata cristata, and they chew on flowers. That's what they do.
And
Bucket of soapy water, because they're on blooms. You don't want to treat the blooms.
okay, all right. And then we have one more picture here, and this is, these beetles are flying all over. We actually had 2 people send this in. They're about 1.5 inches long. They sound like a bumblebee. They burrow in the ground. They want to know if they're harmful.
Green June beetles. If you've got them, you know it, and they...
What?
You could have been here
They're
earlier today. They were
pain in the rear end to
Really?
manage. Yeah, they're in the turf, they're in the soil as grubs, and then yeah, they eat a lot of things.
They were in the
They're-
backyard farmer garden today.
So squish,
Squish.
squish.
Protect what you want to protect. Brick A, brick B, insect.
Apparently nobody on the panel likes them very well. No. All right, thanks, Wayne. Terry, one picture here. This is a viewer who wants to know what this volunteer is in the flowers. Hairy stem, short-lived flowers like a poppy with white petals. He's from Fremont.
Yep, this is Venice mallow. It's an annual Pretty easy to cultivate out of your garden. Just rip it out, pull it, dig it, get rid of it.
Or enjoy it.
You can enjoy it if you want.
Okay.
Don't let it go to seed though.
All right, 2 pictures on this next one. This is in a flower bed here in Lincoln, forefront of her flower garden. 2 nice rounded masses. Looks like it's going to flower. She doesn't recall planting it.
So this is Pennsylvania Piltroy. It's an annual here. Pretty prolific in like a specific area, but very easy to cultivate out of your soil. You can hoe it or you can just hand pull it out. It's actually related to stinging nettles, but this one doesn't have the little hairs to sting. So.
All right, and I think we've had that one on the show before, so it must be happy this spring.
Be.
All right, Kyle, 2 pictures on this first one. This is an Omaha viewer. He's got asparagus beans, and he's been growing them in an organic raised bed for over 3 years. He's never seen these spots. He does move them to a different place each year. Should he be concerned?
You know, sometimes we talk about how diseases can be beautiful, and especially if they're viral in nature. And I think this is that he may have a virus here. Which one, I'm not sure. Could be bean common virus. It could be tobacco rattle virus. It could be tobacco ring spot virus. Really not sure. The big thing is though it will not affect the beans. May decrease yield a little bit, but really one of those things just to keep an eye on. There is a chance that it can spread to other plants in the garden. Depending on which virus it is, it's most likely being spread by some sort of insect, maybe thrips or aphids. But really nothing that I would be too concerned about, just something that looks kind of cool.
Right, and you have one picture of this next one in the old Millard area of Omaha, east side of the house, 5 peonies. They had less than 10 flowers on the total of 5, and she said these buds turn brown and then fall.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about this one before the show, and it's probably peony bud blast. And so what is bud blast? So it can be fungal, it can be environmental, it can be an old age sort of thing for the plant. It does not look to me like it's fungal. Botrytis is a fungal pathogen that can cause those buds to turn brown, but there would be leaf spots associated with those as well. And so with there being no leaf spots and just those brown kind of dead buds, I would wonder if it's not maybe just a little bit too old, or I was told that potentially peonies can be planted too deep, and that can cause them not to bloom as well, but not a whole lot to do right now, unfortunately.
All right, thanks, Kyle. All right, Elizabeth, you have 2 pictures on this first one. This is a Sutton viewer. Blue spruces were damaged by hail. Will they need to be replaced? They had 5 of them and they had golf ball sized hail, unfortunately. They're brown on the side that was hit, so not sure if they can be saved.
You know, even if you leave them in, those hail wounds are going to be open to a wide range of pathogens that can find their way in. You know, you can leave them, you can see what's going to happen. Just understand the only opportunity for new growth on that side of the plant is going to be at the ends of the branches. So it's going to look like a lion tail if it does leaf out. And so if it's more than 1/3 of the overall canopy, that tree's going to be stressed. I don't think it's going to be a quality tree. If you wanted to leave it in, you could. Just know that this fall and this winter, they're going to be stressed because of the lack of foliage that they have, and they're more susceptible to winter death.
All right. You have one picture on this next one, and this is a juniper, and he's in Wilcox, Nebraska. He wonders, is there any hope?
Well, and this juniper is being very interesting. It's got junipers will have 2 different foliage types. They'll have the awl, and then they'll have the scale type. And so the little tuft ones are the awls, which are the pokey ones, and then the other ones are more the scale type ones. And so, you know, it's just interesting. I don't know if I'd take it out. I don't know if I'd leave it. It's really up to personal preference at this point in time. There's really nothing you can do to make it change its foliage type. So it's just going to look a little wonky for a while. And again, up to them.
All right, and you have 2 pictures on this next one. This is Juniata. They just purchased this. They want to know what it is. They have 3 of them in the corner of the yard. Can they be saved, pruned, or off with their heads?
So what these are is these are elderberry. We can kind of tell by the leaves that they have on them, some of them. Elderberries in general are self-rutescent, which means that they're going to die back to the ground every year. So the thing to keep in mind is right now, leave what's alive up and standing. We want as much leaf area as possible. And then this fall, this winter, next spring, go ahead and whack them back to the ground and let them come back from that root system. But more than likely, your elderberries are going to be able to come back.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. Well, if you don't know this, our garden is a display site for All America selections. And for our garden update, Terry's going to show us another great All American vegetable in the Backyard Farmer Garden.
First, we want to thank everybody who visited the Backyard Farmer Garden during East Campus Discovery Days last week. We had a great turnout and we're looking forward to our next one in August. We're going to return looking at all of our new All America Selection 2022 winners. And this week we're going to look at a new eggplant icicle. This is going to be one of those elongated kind of Japanese style eggplant, pure white, a beautiful looking eggplant. It's going to stand about 48 inches tall. It's only going to be about 28 inches wide, and it's going to have not very many spines on it. So it's going to be very easy to pick. According to the judges, the taste was very good, that even their kids were asking for seconds. So stop by the Backyard Farmer Garden and check out our new eggplant All America Selection winner, Icicle.
Now it is time for lightning. Are you ready, Elizabeth?
You bet.
All right, your first question comes to us from Norfolk. This viewer had 3 diva cucumbers and they are flowering and they are not fruiting. What's up with that?
Probably male flowers, not female.
All right, we have a Maryland viewer who has asked us what the best fertilizer is for evergreens that he has in containers.
We normally don't fertilize trees, for one, and for two, in Nebraska, they don't really live in containers very long. But in Maryland, I don't have an answer for you.
We have a viewer who says her ewes put on 12 inches of growth recently. Can she go ahead and prune that because it looks a little squirrely, or should she wait?
Yep, you can prune those once the new growth has already been set on. Go ahead and give it a haircut.
All right, we have a Franklin viewer who says her broccoli is yellow, and we have another viewer who says her broccoli is chartreuse. What's up with that?
So it could be related to cultivar. The yellow could be related to they waited too long. It'll also turn purple. So if it was me, I'd go ahead and be picking my broccoli, because after this week, it's not going to be very good very much longer.
All right, nice job, Elizabeth, even though I threw you for a loop from Maryland.
Thanks, Marilyn.
All right, let's see. Kyle, you are next up. The dreaded, this comes to us from Paxton, and just pick your city. Cupping and curling leaves on tomatoes and peppers.
Herbicide injury.
All right, we have a Denton viewer who says he has had his sycamore treated for 4 years for anthracnose to no avail. Is there an injectable treatment for anthracnose in sycamore?
Probably, but typically you really don't need to treat the sycamores for anthracnose. I'd be curious about some other abiotic issues that are causing those leaves to drop.
All right, this is a Plattsmouth viewer who has 2-year-old hollyhocks and they're very rusty. Treatment, yes, no, or never?
Too late. Once you see the orange rust pustules, it's too late.
All right, we have an Omaha viewer who has a honeysuckle vine that is wilting. She's not seeing any insects or any diseases to speak of. Any ideas on that one?
Some sort of wilt, could be verticillium, could be Phytophthora. If it's not responding to water, probably just cut it out right now. All
right, nice job. All right, Terry, if I can find yours. You ready?
Sure. Okay.
This is a Lincoln viewer who has wild onion or garlic. They're wondering, can you use a pre-emerge on that?
Probably not, because it's a perennial, so you'll have the bulbs already in the ground.
All right. We have a Carney viewer who said the mulch just sat on their turf for a couple of weeks. finally got it off of there. Can they expect that turf to recover, or going to start over?
You're probably going to have to start over. It's been too hot.
All right. We have a Hastings viewer who wants to overseed their lawn. How soon can they actually start thinking about that?
In August.
All right. We have a Gurley, Nebraska viewer who wants to know what to spray on bindweed to get rid of it.
You can either use a broadleaf weed killer or glyphosate and use the glove of death method.
All right. We have a viewer who says mint has spread into their turf. How do you get mint out of the turf?
Don't plant it. You could use a broadleaf weed killer in turf, so try that.
All right. Lots of spreading into turf. All right, Wayne, are you ready?
Am I spreading into turf?
Your Japanese beetles are, absolutely. All right, so your first question comes to us from Cambridge, Nebraska. The green June beetles, when to expect their grubs and how to treat.
When to expect the grubs? Well, it'll be shortly after the mass emergence when those eggs are laid, and then they'll start hatching at late this summer.
And how to treat.
That's a tough one because typically you've got to put it on early when the turf is actively growing, and it's not going to be actively growing at that time because we're going to be a little too hot yet, and so.
So no.
No.
All right. We have another viewer who wants to know whether dead Japanese beetles are okay to use in their compost or as ant food.
Well, the ants are going to like it either way, but there has been a little bit of research done, and they can be used in compost.
All right. A Plainview viewer has gray insects munching on his taters. What are those, and would carbaryl work to kill them?
Ash gray blister beetles, and yes.
All right. Is there such a thing as an Asian jumping mantis in Nebraska?
Not that I am aware of. We would have the Chinese praying mantis, and we would also have some of our other natives.
Awesome. Nice job. All 5544.
This half of the table.
This half of the table is performing well tonight. All right, Elizabeth, what are our plants of the week?
So we have some really fun plants of the week this week. The first one is going to be this purple one. This is a Liatris. It's also known as gay feather. This is a really fun plant because it grows from a corm or like a tuber underground. It's also known as the Indian potato, which voles absolutely love it. So if you have voles, maybe not plant this. But it's really cool because it starts blooming at the top and then it slowly works its way down. So it'll bloom for a very extended period of time. Pollinators just really love the Liatris, and they'll come and they'll be attracted to it. So that's a really fun one. That's going to be a perennial. The other one that is in front is, it's one of the zinnias, and it's one of a really fun one. It's the Queenie Lemon Peach. There's a whole bunch of the Queenie ones that are out there now. They're really large zinnia. The number of petals on there's a large number, and then you have that bicolor where it starts in and then it kind of gradiates and it goes around to it. Again, you're going to see a lot of pollinators on your zinnia as well, and insects really love to eat the foliage on that, so be careful so you don't get some insect damage on there. But these are two really nice plants of the week.
Excellent. In the Backyard Farmer Garden.
Backyard Farmer Garden.
All right. Wayne, you have several questions now. So this is a viewer who is in Omaha. She says this little guy is joyfully devouring her Ohio buckeye. What is this?
American dagger moth.
Isn't that pretty?
And do not handle if you have sensitive skin.
Okie doke. So then we have a Burwell viewer who says they found this installing a paver patio. It has two pictures here, and this is Spencer, Nebraska.
Yes, so it's called a Helgramite, which is the larval form of the Dobson fly. Ah. And they will crawl away from water when they are ready to turn into a pupa.
Excellent.
And other interesting fact, they are one of the few insects that are mobile as a pupa.
Oh, all righty then. So your next one comes to us from Oakland. This is a worm identification. She found 4 of them. 4 days ago, the plant was healthy, and now the plant is stripped.
Sounds like tobacco hornworm to me, and it has the correct number of stripes across the back, which is 7. 7 pairs going down the side.
So pick and pluck and squish.
Squish, yeah. Make big mess squish.
Right. Then you have a Scotts Bluff viewer who sent spotted this caterpillar in the yard and 3 inches long.
It's a big one. This is an Akamon sphinx moth caterpillar. It's one of our hornworms, just like the tobacco worm, but this one is hornless. It loses the horn after, I forget if this one's the first or third instar that it drops the horn, and then it's just a little eye spot on the back.
All right, and one more, and this is West Point. Interesting insect, kind of cute. Is it good or is it bad?
So I got to comment, this insect must have been moving because it's really fuzzy around it. So there's some debate amongst the entomologists that have discussed this one, whether it's a lappet moth or if it's really just an eastern comma butterfly caterpillar within a lighter form. Not really sure.
One or the other.
It's one or the other.
All right, that's good enough. All right, Terry, 2 pictures on this first one. This is a viewer in Elm Creek. She thinks this first one is yellow nutsedge. What is it and what should she do about it? She does have it sprayed for crabgrass and yellow nutsedge, and the second picture we think is a different grass for her. Yeah.
So there's some yellow nutsedge in here. To definitely ID yellow nutsedge, you need to go down into the bottom of the plant closest to the soil, and it will put your fingers around it. It will feel like a triangle. That is indicative of nutsedge. Really, one of the issues with nutsedge is that you have a short mow on your turf. You need to make sure you're mowing it 3.5 inches in length, make sure you give it good fertilizer and all those good things. If you have a good stand of turf, you're most likely not going to have nutsedge in your turf.
All right, and your second picture on that one I think was... what?
Yeah, so this one I think is one of those foliage or forage fescues. So it's probably brought in by an animal or a bird or something like that. Again, making sure that you have good stands of turf will definitely help.
All right, one picture on this next one. This is out at Johnson Lake. She did say they have a lot of winter kill, at least this is green.
Well, yeah, you can keep it green. This I think is brome. Mm-hmm. You can use tenacity on that. That will get rid of it, but if you just need turf, then just keep mowing it. Don't let it go to seed.
All right, 2 pictures on this next one. This is carpeting a very shady area of lawn, also covered with pine needles. What is it and how to control it? And I think the next picture is the dead giveaway.
Yeah, so this is chickweed. This is an annual, very easy to get rid of. You can hand pull it or you can hoe it out. If you do hoe it out, make sure that you remove all of the plant because even a little piece of it will root itself back in. So make sure you pull all that plant out if you do hoe it.
All right. Kyle, your first one, you have 2 pictures. This is a broken bow viewer. You could have gotten this from many people across the state. 5 years old, growing great, and all of a sudden dying. Gets plenty of water and sun. What is it?
To me, it looks like Phytophthora. There's a lot of kind of blackening towards the base of it, kind of moving its way up from the soil line, which is very typical of Phytophthora. You know, we had a very wet spring, which is ideal for those water molds. Then it got super hot, which is not that great for the plant. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. Nothing really to do about it right now, unfortunately.
All right, you have 3 pictures from this next one. This is a Wahoo viewer. Pumpkins are slowly dying. He's used an insecticide and a fungicide. Several things. He did water heavily. He did use a pre-emerge. What is this? And if we can't help him, what do we recommend for next year?
So this looks like angular leaf spot, and that is actually a bacterial disease. So insecticides won't be effective, nor will fungicides be effective on our bacterial diseases. Always good to know what you have before you start applying something. As far as what to do right now, not a ton, unfortunately. We don't have a lot of great controls for our bacterial diseases. Some copper or sulfur products can be somewhat effective, but one of the biggest things will be to avoid working in those pumpkins while they're wet. That's one of the biggest ways to spread that disease from plant to plant. As far as next year goes, look for a resistant or tolerant variety, and that's going to be your best control.
All right, Kyle, and 2 pictures on this next one. This is a Council Bluffs viewer. What kind of shroom is this, and is it dangerous?
Probably not, so this is one of our false boletes, likely Suillus, in the Suillus group. It's kind of cool. The blue around it is from the stain. It kind of bruises blue when you touch it. The red cap makes me think that it could maybe be a spicy, one of the spicy Suillus. So which actually, if you do have experience with mushroom foraging and would know what it is, that it tastes very spicy, kind of like has a lot of capsaicin in it. But as far as pets, things like that, nothing to worry about.
Excellent, thank you, Kyle. All right, Elizabeth, 2 pictures on this first one. Brown spots on linden. You got it because everybody else is busy, but this is Lodgepole, Nebraska. Leaves curling as well. So what do we have going on the linden?
So when we take a look at this first picture, while it may have brown spots on the leaves, I'm not seeing anything that would indicate that we would need to do anything. It looks like some of the leaves kind of got bruised. It looks like we might have some insect damage, but at this point in time, there's really nothing we would recommend in terms of sprays or applications. When it comes to those curling leaves like that, that's going to be that herbicide drift. Anytime we have that cupping, curling distortion, that's going to be a little bit of herbicide drift. You're going to see it on certain leaves, and then other leaves are going to look perfectly fine. Most of the time it's going to be those newest most leaves that are going to be affected. All
right, your next one, you have 1 picture. This is an ash, and that's a lightning strike.
Take it out. It's not worth keeping, it's not worth saving. It's an ash. You're going to be removing it anyway at some point in time, wherever they're from. So right now is going to be your best bet. Go ahead and remove that tree. It's just going to be a hazard down the road.
All right, Elizabeth. 2 pictures on this next one. This is red oaks, planted when the house was built. One is great, the other one isn't. Any idea on this one?
So we were kind of tossing this back and forth with this one. You know, it's kind of tough to tell from the pictures that we were given. You know, we can't see if there's a canker on the stem or anything like that. For their best bet, it's going to be sending a sample into Kyle just to make sure that there's nothing pathogenic on there, to make sure that if there is something, we get it identified correctly. With that, he's going to need the leaves to still be a little bit green, not completely brown, because you're not able to get anything from brown leaves.
Yep, yeah, you know, so kind of we like the samples that are still partially alive and partially dead, but also would probably want some of the woody material as well. So not just those leaves, and never send in leaves that have been that have dropped off of the ground.
All right, and 2 pictures on this next one, Elizabeth. This is an autumn blaze maple, planted in 2017. Yes, no, or maybe?
Just leave it and see. Down at the bottom, it's making callus tissue, so that's the good sign. We don't know how deep that crack is going to go, so just continue to watch if it's got some leaves that are falling off on that side, or it's starting to fail on that side. That's when we have our indicator that it probably needs to be removed, but just watch for now.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth. You know, we are so appreciative of our loyal audience for staying with us for 70 years. It's also really neat knowing that the next generation of gardeners are catching on as well. We met up with Carter Lubke and his family in Wayne to discover his love of gardening and backyard farmer.
My mom did gardening, and when COVID hit, somehow I just fell in love with plants and trees and stuff, and then I just wanted to learn more about it. And I like science.
Carter got started in gardening a couple of years ago. COVID happened and preschool was closed. He couldn't see his friends, we couldn't go anywhere. And so he ended up finding a little stick and he put it in a pot and decided it was a tree. He took it with him everywhere. We went on walks and he just got really interested in trees. And then after that, he started getting interested in other things. He went to his grandpa's vegetable garden and looked at trees in the grove. We started buying more flowers, and he just has really expanded what he likes.
I like backyard farmer because I like to see the flower of the week. and I like to know the different questions. I've submitted questions, and they are daylily, eggs on a daylily, and a fungus on a hen and chicks.
Carter started watching Backyard Farmer a couple of years ago. At first he just watched little bits and pieces of Backyard Farmer, and now he watches the whole episode. He likes seeing what the flower of the week is. He likes looking at the bugs and different things, and sometimes he might see a problem with a plant and he sees something similar at home, and he just likes to watch that. His love of plants has been a really neat thing to see. He has gotten some of his friends interested in plants. His teacher last year called him the plant man, and he got to help her take care of her Gerber daisy. He's got neighbors excited about his love of plants, and it's just been really contagious. I told him a lot of people grow up and they have never found what it is that they really truly love, and it's really special that he's already found that.
We're really looking forward to watching Carter and his garden grow, and he's only 6 years old, so that's really, really fun. And thanks to the Lubke family for inviting us up to their home. You know, you can see this and many other Backyard Farmer features and programs on our YouTube channel. Check it out, hit that subscribe button after the show. All right, we have an announcement or two, as always, on the show, and I think we have one which is coming up already. August, East Campus Discovery Days again, the last one, East Campus Mall, 10 to 2. We are usually in the garden, and there's all sorts of other cool stuff. And of course, anybody who's on the panel and sits on the mall gets all sorts of questions that we don't have to answer then. Is that right, Kyle?
You can bring all your rod and spot samples to me, and we'll happily answer those questions.
All right, Wayne, you have a bunch of pictures now. This is a Fort Collins, Colorado viewer. They have thousands of these covering the west side of their house. What are they? Should he worry?
They're Argus tortoise beetles, and no, they're more interested in eating morning glories and field bindweed.
All right, Morse Bluff viewer has these worms all over, inch long, dark brown, hundreds of them. What are they and how to get rid of them?
Greenhouse millipedes, native to Asia. Good luck getting rid of them.
Uh-oh. All right. We have two pictures on this next one. This is a Carney viewer, and she says she's submitting this from a family member near Indianapolis. Why are these ants carrying hill-making material into the house, and how can she get rid of them?
Clean it up, plug the hole, bait outside. They're pavement ants.
Pavement ants. All right.
So that'd be the best thing to do. Get one of the outdoor baits.
All right, excellent. And two more pictures with this question. This is a Blair, Nebraska viewer. These little critters recently took up residence on the front porch. What are they and what should be done about them?
Box elder bugs.
Really?
If you really want to get rid, these are the nymphs.
The nymphs, there you go.
This one right here would be the last instar before becoming an adult. Mm-hmm. And if you want to get rid of them, chop down all of your maples, including your box elders and any female ash trees you have in the neighborhood, and then you can not have box elder bugs.
Not happening, in other words.
Probably not.
All right. Terry, you have two pictures on this one, and this comes to us from Hastings. She's got this funky patch in her yard. She waters it. She checks for grubs. This one area just will not green up. What do we think?
I think this is all going to have to end up being management. It looks like it's compacted. It's next to the driveway. It's next to the sidewalk. So it's got heat coming off of it. It's too low. So what you're probably going to need to do is aerate it this fall. You're probably going to need to overseed it. Make sure that you're mowing it 3 to 3.5 inches tall. It looks like you're cutting your lawn too short. You really should only need to water it about 1 inch a week is at the most. Turf actually doesn't need as much water as most people think. So this is all going to be management.
All right, and you have 3 pictures on this next one. This is Phragmites, and he wants to know how to kill the frag without killing everything else because he has been told he needs to, which is true.
Yes, so this is on the invasive species list. It's going to take quite a bit. You can go to extension.unl.edu, look up publications. The EC 130 will give you the list of all of the chemicals that you can use to do this. You could get back a hold of your weed board people, and they should be able to help you. If not, I believe you are in Columbus, you could get a hold of Kelly Feehan, and she would maybe be able to help. But you can spray it, you can cut it down. If it is in a safe enough area that you could burn it, you can burn it back, all the dead back, and see where the growth is coming up from to spray that so that you get a better control. There is also a mechanical control, but it doesn't work very well where you're kind of disking it in, but yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I know. All right, Kyle, you have several pictures also. This is a Rising City viewer who says, what caused the mower tracks to apparently die?
This is likely Ascochyta. And so we do see it fairly often in stressed turf. It's really not one of those turf diseases that we need to worry a whole lot about. The turf, it does not harm the root or crown. It really just gets the growing point. And what we can see here is it's in the shaded area of the lawn. We don't have any of it because that lawn is not, or that area is not near as stressed from the heat and drought conditions. Right. So just water it and it will grow out of it.
All right, 2 pictures on the next one. Lilacs. The brown eventually turns back. She sprayed with copper fungicide in early spring, then 2 weeks later, second year for this, and by the fall they're all brown and black. Yeah,
this is pretty much everywhere anymore. It's this our Pseudocercospora, a Cercospora leaf blight on lilacs. The coppers should work, but we're probably a little bit too early with them.
All right, and 3 picks on this next one. This is a Bennett viewer. This is redbud that has cupping, curling, and black spots.
Yeah, and I spent a lot of time talking to this gentleman last weekend as well, and so there's certainly some herbicide injury that we're seeing. As far as those black spots on the leaves, really not sure. One of the things that he had mentioned was that pretty much the entire tree showed up with those black spots just over a couple of days. That's really not terribly indicative of any disease, and so I really do think that it's primarily a herbicide issue in question, but I'd be more than happy to look at one of those look at some of those leaves if you want to send a sample in.
All right, excellent. Elizabeth, your first one comes to us from Louisville, Colorado aspen blew over. Replacement tree, what do you think?
So there's a really great list if you Google trees for eastern Nebraska, and what it does is it breaks down from the Nebraska Forest Service and the statewide arboretum. It breaks down the trees based on size, because I don't know what your clearance is, I don't know how much room you have, and so I really can't recommend, you know, one tree over another. But if you go there, it breaks them down by sizes, whether a large shade tree or a smaller tree. So I'd start there and pick a fun one off of that eastern Nebraska list.
All right, Grand Island viewer next. She's calling it a lamplighter hydrangea that hasn't bloomed, and we haven't been able to find lamplighter, so what do we think here?
You know, we looked up lamplighter. We're not real sure. It looks like it's a paniculata type or kind of one of those. You know, we need to know a little bit more about it, but it might just be related to management.
All right. Next one is, this is a Norfolk viewer. This is a picture from last year on Limelight. She's wondering, should she water since it's so dry?
Yes, water it. We want to make sure that it survives.
All right, and 2 quick pictures on the next one. This comes to us from Council Bluffs. This is a PJM rhododendron. 3 together, they've lost them, they've lost them, they've lost them, what?
My first thought is, what direction is that facing? Is it intense sunlight? If we're talking intense sunlight, we're probably not going to be extremely happy with a rhododendron in that location. So, you know, it may just be not the right plant for that location.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth.